Good evening and welcome everyone to this wonderful celebration and rededication of Crestdale Elementary School on this 24th day of April 2013, and it is a beautiful spring evening also. I would like to ask everyone to please stand for the pledge. And after we say the pledge, please remain standing for a moment of silence for those who lost their lives and for those families and for those who are still injured from the recent Boston bombing. And I would like to invite our wonderful Crestdale students to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job.
Thank you. Please be seated. I don't think we've had the pledge said with zest and gust for a long time. So thank you, students. And now I believe that the students are going to perform. Thank you so much, boys and girls. That was wonderful. And thank you, parents and guardians, for all that you do to help with the education of your children. So cute. And Mrs. Latimer, thank you so much for dedicating your time and service .
For anyone who may be watching, I think Mrs. Pigman is setting up a reader's theater.
Yes, sir.
Tammy, what's your assignment for Black History Month?
I'm writing a paper on Rosa Parks.
I know about her. She was riding a bus home from work one day when someone told her to move to the back of the bus. She refused to move. That started the Montgomery bus boycott.
Wow, that took a lot of courage.
It didn't happen that really long a time ago.
It was in 1955. That means there are probably people in town who lived through that time. Maybe you can interview them for your paper.
I like that idea. I could start doing research at the local newspaper.
Who did you get, Sarah?
I got Jackie Robinson. I've got to write about a baseball player. I hate baseball.
But Jackie Robinson was the first African American to play Major League Baseball.
So what? Baseball is just a game.
What book did you get?
Oh, just the biography of Jackie Robinson. I haven't read it yet.
Why don't we use your book to find about Jackie Robinson? Then we can use our wind machine to go back in time and talk to people.
That's a great idea. Seeing history is more interesting than reading about it.
Really? Back in time? That sounds so cool.
I'm sure we'll learn about something. Hop on. Where should we get started, Sarah?
Well, I should write about how Jackie Robinson broke into the major leagues. So let's start in 1945. It says in the book that Branch Rickey was the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers. He called Jackie in for a meeting.
Okay, here we are in 1945. Let's see what this meeting is all about.
Quick, let's hide behind the desk.
Jackie, thank you so much for coming today. Do you know why I asked you here?
Well, Mr. Rickey, I guess it's about the new black baseball team you wanting to start.
No, Jackie. I want to talk to you about joining the Brooklyn Dodgers.
The Dodgers, a major league team? Me?
Yes, I want you to be the first African-American player in the major leagues.
That's great, Mr. Rickey, but why me?
Jackie, you are one of the most exciting players in baseball. You're not just a good hitter. You can run faster than anyone, and nobody steals bases like you do.
Thank you, but there's a lot of great players in the Negro Leagues. Many have been playing longer than I have.
They're all great players, Jackie, but you have something special. The man who breaks the color barrier will have to face prejudice and discrimination. People will call you names. Players will refuse to play with you. I think you have the courage and the character to handle that.
Thank you, Mr. Rickey.
Don't thank me, Jackie. Convince me you can do it. I have an idea. I'll pretend I'm one of those people. Okay, Jackie Robinson, what makes you think you deserve to be a Major League Baseball player?
At college, I starred in 4 sports. I've been a star player for the Kansas Monchos, a team in the Negro American League.
What have you done besides play baseball?
I joined the Army. I was an officer during World War II.
Here's the hard one. Why do you think an African American should get to play Major League Baseball?
Because all people are equal, no matter what their color. Well, what do you think, Mr. Rickey?
I know you can do it, Jackie. But remember, people will try to make you angry. I'm looking for someone with the courage not to fight back. Your job is to hit and steal bases and to field balls.
I'll do it.
I knew you would. If we succeeded, it will open doors for black people everywhere, not just in sports.
Then let's get started.
I have a contract right here. You're going to play 1 year in the minor leagues, then on to the majors. Wow, you aren't kidding. This is exciting.
Where to next, Sarah?
Let me check the book. How about visiting Pee Wee Reese? It says here that Reese was the Dodgers shortstop and a friend of Jackie's. So set the machine for 1949. That's the year the Dodgers won the National League pennant.
I bet Pee Wee Reese can tell us a lot about Jackie.
Let's stop in the locker room and talk with him. Okay, wind machine, take us to Dodger Stadium, 1949.
Hi, kids. What are you doing here in the locker room?
We're interested in learning about Jackie Robinson. We hoped you could tell us something about him. What did he do before he came to the major leagues? Was he a good player even then?
Oh, yes. Jackie has always been great at running, fielding, throwing, and hitting.
He led his team to victory in the Junior League World Series.
Did he play for the Dodgers like Mr. Rickey promised in 1945?
Yes, and Mr. Rickey was there for him all the way. It wasn't easy. At first, some people on the team didn't want to play with Jackie. But then they saw that he was a great player. Other teams said they would strike if Robinson was allowed to play.
What did Mr. Rickey do? I said strike if you want to. We're not backing down.
Mr. Rickey, I hope you don't mind us asking questions. We are here to learn about Jackie Robinson.
Of course not. I know how important it is to ask any questions.
How did Jackie do his first year?
He hit almost 300, stole 29 bases, and was named Rookie of the Year.
Did everything go the way that you had hoped?
We just won the National League pennant, didn't we?
So the story has a happy ending.
Well, not yet. Our team still needs to win the World Series.
True, but we did win the pennant. We did win the pennant, and Jackie won Most Valuable Player award. He's 30 years old, but he led the National League in hitting and base stealing and drove in 124 runs.
Are you ready to go back and write your paper, Sarah?
Not yet, Tommy. We have one more stop to make.
Where's that?
According to my book, the Dodgers lost the World Series in 1949. Robinson played great, but the Yankees won. I agree with Pee Wee Reese. I don't want to go back until they win it all.
For somebody who hates baseball, you're getting pretty excited.
Hate baseball? I love baseball. Let's go.
So where do we go?
To 1955. Let's go to the Yankee Stadium in New York for the World Series.
Here we are. It's the 7th game, the end of the 9th inning.
The Yankees are down to their last out. Look, a ground ball to Pee Wee Reese. And there it is. The Dodgers are the champs. Listen to the crowd yelling.
Jackie Robinson must be the happiest man in the world. And here he comes now.
Mr. Robinson, you're our hero.
Thank you, kids. But I'm just a baseball player.
Just a baseball player? No, you were the first African-American player in the major leagues. You opened doors for people from every background everywhere.
I'm glad you feel that way. That's what I always wanted. I want everyone to be equal in baseball and in every other part of their life.
It looks like you succeeded.
I made a start in baseball. There are many African American baseball players in the major league now.
You helped them get their chance, just like Mr. Rickey helped you.
How much longer do you plan to play?
Well, I think I'm going to retire soon. I'm 35 years old, and I have other things I want to do.
Like what?
I want to work for the civil rights. I want to go into business. There's a lot of things to do, and I want to open doors for people in all areas of life. You just have give people a chance, that's all.
You don't have to convince us, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you for visiting me, kids. Remember, you always have the power to make a difference in people's lives too.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Let's go, guys. Goodbye, Mr. Robinson.
Goodbye.
The wind machine is set to bring us home. Are you ready to write your paper now, Sarah?
You bet. It's not about baseball at all. It's about one person making a difference by standing up for what he believes in. Okay.
Boys and girls, before you leave, could you, each of you, say your names in the microphone and what grade you're in and who's your teacher?
My name is Bray. I'm in 4th grade, and my teacher is Mrs. Brush.
My name is Louie. I'm in 4th grade, and I'm in Miss Pigman's class.
My name is Kayla. I'm in 4th grade, and I'm in Miss Luce's class.
My name is Shiley, and I'm in 4th grade, and I'm in Miss Luce's class.
My name is Michaela, and I'm in 4th grade in Miss Brush's class.
I'm Riley, and I am in 4th grade, and I am in Miss Pittman's class.
Well, I can tell you, boys and girls, that as a former reading teacher, I was listening for fluency and inflection, and you did them all. You were fabulous. Very good. Thank you.
Linda, I got here early enough to have the ambassadors, those who were all, how many of you were ambassadors? And those were the ones who were greeting everyone when they got here early enough to give tours of not only their classroom, but also the entire building. And as often as I'm even in this building, they were teaching me more today than I'd even known. And they're taking a great interest in their school, not just the classroom, but the entire school. Those ambassadors did a fantastic job as well, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, tonight is the formal rededication of Crestdale, and we have a little bit of information we'd like to share about the building. Mr. Mays, would you come up to the microphone and share for the board as well as our public here some of the important information about this renovation project?
Okay,
Your challenge is to face both of us at the same time.
I'll stand right here. Thank you, Dr. Borf. What I'd like to do is just explain the scope of work and how the staff at the building here helped us complete this project on time. As you know, we did a total renovation of the entire existing building, and that we added 4 classrooms addition, which is to my right. We also put in new windows, energy efficient insulation, sprinklers, HVAC lighting, and so forth to try to cut down on energy cost. When we were looking at Crestdale, we were looking at a K4 building, which changed a lot from where we were looking at a K6 building, so that we had to work up and also some preschool classrooms. So we worked in 2 preschool classrooms and 3 life skills, 2 ECSE rooms, 5 kindergartens, 5 first grade, 4 second grade, and 2 third grade and 3 fourth grade. That was the original design. And as the students come through the building, then they can change different rooms and different uses, so that we could maybe next year have 2 fourth grade or 4 third grades. It's just however we want to work up the room. And then we renovated the library, cafeteria, gymnasium, and office areas. So that's what we've done to the building. Now let me talk about what the staff did. The staff members were very remarkable and resilient. I don't know if you had a whole building here that everybody had to pack everything. They had to put everything away, and then we had to move it to a truck and store it here until they would come back in the fall. The construction schedule was to start the first day of summer break. And then there were a group of teachers that approached us after we had bid the project and we knew who the contractors were, and say, if you would move the east wing staff into the gymnasium, you could start the renovation 6 weeks early. And the teachers were willing to move in there. We Warner Maintenance put up some temporary partitions and carpet on the floor, and that's what kept us on schedule. So then we did the 6 weeks early, and as you can see, we finished the project 6 weeks to 2 months early. And then with a K4 building and the change in boundaries, we had to have more students, and so the 4th grade teachers then, once we got the 2 wings decorated and refurbished, then the 4th grade teachers moved into the gym, and they were there until fall break, and then they moved into the new addition. And the neat thing about that was they got their students so engrossed in the new addition that they actually sat down and did some planning themselves on where their desk would be. Then they moved, the students helped move desks, chairs, storage items in the room, and they were all just part of the whole project. And I think that speaks well of the whole staff here at Crestdale. So I'd like to introduce Dave Innistrode, who his firm did all the design and put the whole project together.
Well, thank you very much. I actually went to elementary school in this building, so it was dear to my heart to be lucky enough to be selected, our firm, to do the renovation on this building. So I remember, like yesterday, running down the hallways myself. So it was exciting to be part of this project with the school board. Thank you very much. I just want to share a few facts of the building that Ron, when the project came in, at the end of the project, we were able to come in under budget, and we've got a deduct change order at the end of the project of $17,700 at the end of the project. We also were able to apply and successfully apply for an energy rebate grant for the energy efficient use of light fixtures, was another approximately $15,000 refund to the school board on this project as well. So those two items were really nice to have to keep the cost down for the district and taxpayers. Just some cost numbers. The existing building was 49,000 square feet. We renovated that for approximately around $80 a square foot of renovation cost. And the new addition of just over about 6,600 square feet or so, that was constructed at $165 a square foot, when we currently have a state average of about $185 a square foot. So with some ingenuity in the process and competitive bidding process, we were able to keep those costs well under the state average construction cost. So on the, maintenance keeps a very good record of your utility bills, so we've asked for copies of those so we could do some energy calculations. If you take your past 4 years' averages prior to the renovation, you were spending an average of almost $62,000 a year in utilities for gas and electric. With the energy upgrades that we've done to the building, which includes new energy efficient windows, insulation, HVAC, and lighting, this year after the renovation was a $20,000 a year savings in utility cost to the building. You're currently paid $42,535 in the 2012 year. So that's going to be a savings that you'll see every single year from here on out. So there's some, and that's with the addition, the building is 13% larger in area. So we were excited to be a part of that project and be able to bring that efficiency to the building and those savings to the taxpayers of the community. With that, we'd like to officially turn the building over to the school board here, and I got a couple keys to the building we'd like to give you. In dedication to the building. The building is now yours to move into, and you already have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Could we have the staff of Crestdale please stand? And Mrs. Hobbs, would you please come forward on behalf of the staff? I would like to turn my key over to you as principal of Crestdale, and we have full confidence in you and the staff that you're going to carry forward from this point with an educational program second to none for students who are second to none.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Congratulations.
much. Thank you to the
You know, I think it would we would be remiss in not recognizing Connie Miller also. Connie Miller was the principal during part of this renovation project, and we owe a lot to her for the organization that went into some of that transition. So at this point, we have a dedication plaque over here, and I don't know who was supposed to unveil that. Dixie, would you like to do that? This will appear, where does this appear, Mr. Mays? Is this by the front door?
It'll be by the front door just across from the other one.
Okay.
That was the original when the building was built.
All right.
Yes.
Now back in the corner, we have a cake for the students here, and if they would like to line up back there, we'll be serving cake, and we'll just take a short break at this point so that everyone can enjoy that. Thank you very much.
He did a fine job holding that up. I mean, you just...
Welcome to our business meeting of April 24th, 2013. We will begin by having our mission statement read.
Richmond Community Schools mission: to graduate students who are literate, responsible, proficient in state and national standards, and college or career ready.
Thank you, Aaron. And Dixie, would you please read the vision?
By 2020, Richmond Community Schools will be the highest performing school system in East Central Indiana.
Thank you. We have already had our rededication ceremony of Crestdale, and we certainly thank the students, the parents, the staff for their hard work and their dedication, and for coming this evening. And now we're going to move to public commentary. We have 2 sessions of public commentary that where we ask for people that wish to speak to please address us with appropriate decorum. And I would like to ask if we have anyone wishing to speak tonight.
I do. I think we have a group from the high school.
Okay, high school group, feel free to come forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine Lewis.
Good evening, Jasmine. Good evening.
My name is Jasmine Lewis, and I'm Richmond High School Student Body President. I was just coming to talk to you about some upcoming events that the high school is hosting to invite our community into our school. This Saturday, April 27th, from 6 to 9 p.m., we have our Platinum Prom. The Platinum Prom is a free admission for all Richmond community members over the age of 60, and what it is for senior citizens, just come out, and we have the Rush County Big Band that plays, and they can come and dance. We also hold different games for them to partake in. We have food, free pictures, and different games for them to come in and get door prizes. Also, we have the RHS Open House Tuesday, April 30th from 5 to 7 p.m. And what it's going to be doing is our theme is Set Your DVR. So it's a chance for our community and upcoming 8th freshmen coming in to explore the high school and take part in different TV shows. Like we have a car show coming up, and we also are having performances by our Devilettes band orchestra. We also are having poetry readings, different experiments and games, and lots of prizes. And also we are having Kinetic Effects, which is a poetry slam. So there are a lot of things coming up at high school, and I would like to thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you all. Also at the open house we are having, it's a free event, but there are going to be tower tours, which are $2. Hosted by our lovely superintendent. So again, I would just like to invite you all to come and explore our high school and just see what Richmond High School is all about. And thank you.
Thank you.
And Dr. Borf, weren't those tower tours sold out last year?
They were. It was. We had to turn. We didn't turn some people away. We just had so many that they finally left. So we'll be resuming that, and I think we'll be a little tighter in our organizations because one of our problems was I would have to go clear down to the front hall instead of at the 4 corners to get my groups. This year we have tighter organization, and I think we'll be able to make that happen. You know, Roger Richard in Richmond says, "I'll save you money." But my slogan is, "I'll take you to the top."
And it's a beautiful view.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I can tell you that some of us at this table are more qualified for the Platinum Prom than others. But I'm not going to mention who that might be.
Both Jeff and Suzanne are closer this week because they both have birthdays.
This is true.
1 year closer.
Thank you very much.
Closer.
Closer, but not quite there. We're that far.
Do we have anyone else wishing to speak?
No one else has signed up.
Okay, thank you. We are ready for snapshots of success.
Mr. Millis, would you like to come to the podium and introduce our people to be recognized for snapshots?
This evening, we are pleased to award 6 teacher mini grants. There actually will be 6 projects, and then 8 teachers will be involved. It's a competitive grant, and $500 are awarded and provided to teachers to utilize projects that are creative and enhance the classroom. The selection committee this year was Pat Heine, Dixie Robinson, board members, Mark Milla, assistant superintendent, Barb Bergdahl, director of exceptional education, and Karen Scalf, coordinator of business affairs. Grants are awarded based on consideration given to the following questions. Can this project be replicated for other classrooms? How many students will be included? From what research is this project derived? What community resources will serve as partners in this project? Finally, how does this project use innovation to address an educational need? We'd like to introduce the grants and the teachers who were awarded these. I'll say their names and their project and the school. We have most of those teachers with us this evening, and we'd love to have them explain what the project is going to be. We have, first award was Krista Oler, Charles, and that project will be Picture Perfect Science Class Packs. Tina Michaels from Test, and they will have a project on building dog houses. Kristen Brunton, Hibbard, studying chess makes you smarter across the board. Tammy Talbot, Hibbard, Kite Project. Vicki Elliott, this is a group project. Vicki Elliott, Brenda Leddington, Shelley Meyer from Hibbard will be fostering the love of teaching and learning. And then Gail Bratton also from Hibbard and keyboards. I'm been told that Krista could not make it this evening, nor could Tina Michaels. So I guess the next one on the list would be Kristen. If Kristen's here this evening, would you like to come forward and explain your project?
Hello.
Hi, Kristen.
I'll be using the money to purchase chessboards to teach problem solving and strategies with my students. I think we're all familiar with research that connects the game of chess with logic and mathematics, but there's also strong and compelling research that connects it with improvements in language arts. And so I'm hoping to have fun. I love the game of chess and what my students do, and focusing on the strategies, I guess, thinking through the moves. And so the money is going to be used to purchase chess sets and manipulatives that go with teaching chess, as well as some literature and some materials to go with that. So thank you very much.
Sounds exciting. Are you going to share that with Natalie? I noticed she's sitting back there.
I'm considering it.
Okay.
Of course, and that's the great thing about this grant, and how the money I'll be using will continue on, because the chessboards of the sets will be there to be used each year. And actually, I received a mini grant a few years ago for Legos and Lego education. I'm still using those this year, so I really appreciate the grant money. It really helps. So thank you.
Thanks for participating.
Yes.
I want to thank you for choosing my grant. I'm real excited about it. And I'm real excited about being at Hibbard. We've got 3 unique programs there. I've got early college, I've got logos, and I have my life skills students. And with my mini grant, I'm hoping to take my early college students and my logo students and help those life skills students make some art, have some fun, build some friendships, and some community within our little school. And with the magic of my credit card, I've got a short timeline. So we've already gotten started. I've ordered the kite kits. And just to show you how thoughtful and community-minded our kids are, we've got a couple started. And I've got someone that's concerned about New York and the Twin Towers and all terrorism. I've got a student that is interested in, I believe, he has not finished with it, but I believe, and he's going to help with the race against cancer. We did a big project at the beginning of the school year. We talked about international peace, and the students carrying that idea through with their peace signs, and just graphic designs showing friendship, people having fun with the kites. And I'm taking it a step further, making it an entrepreneurial project, and my early college and my logo students are going to be selling kite kits at a Lemonade Day stand, and hopefully rebuilding our supply of kites so this can be an ongoing project, and we can be soaring high from now on.
Nice. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Are you going to be flying those kites sometime?
When that rain quits, we're going to be out there.
August. Great.
They have a great yard to do it in.
Yes, they do.
Good evening to one and all. It's a pleasure to be here. We have a team of itinerant staff that collaborate constantly, and we came up with one unified need, and that is a retinal display iPad. We could see it opening the doors for children that otherwise might not be able to understand or gain knowledge that is critical to them living in our community, having their wants and needs known, and allowing us to become more communicative with them. So my particular group that I plan on using the retinal display iPad with is a group that has been assigned to me this year, and it's the fragilely ill child in the home. This particular child does not have access to many close-up visual items or items that can morph into a more recognizable form. The intensity on this iPad is one that the darkest can be the darkest of darks and the lightest can be the lightest of lights. I present to you the glitter queen. I take glitter everywhere I go, and light on glitter, which my comrade in visual area has turned me on to, Shelley Myers. She has told me, make sure you focus the light from behind. I see eyes light up, I see smiles, and I see a student track. If a student can track, they can make a decision, they can make a choice. If they make a sound of appreciation, I can recognize that. I can take photographs and I can blow them up, but that's distorted. And I'm not quite sure how to focus, but if I have the iPad, I can take that and manipulate that picture and hopefully bring it to the point of recognition for a child to enhance their joy. And when you're enhancing joy, you're enhancing learning. Now, I've got to tell you, as some people have heard me in discussion, I'm a low-tech person. I'm one of those that's always grabbing a guide, or I'm one of those that's always grabbing a Post-it, or I'm creating something, you know, for someone to carry and to use, and strategizing and giving all kinds of educational ideas and thoughts as to how to meet students' needs. The population I'm dealing with right at the moment, this doesn't work for. I needed something to help me become more able to to meet their needs. I've left my partner here, Brenda, out a little bit, and I shouldn't do that because Brenda is somebody that is a research fanatic, and I say that in the kindest ways because if there's something I don't understand or know, she has both the VI and the HI, meaning the hearing impaired and visual. So both of these ladies teaming with me and helping me provide a better service and then them being able to use it in their own capacities with their particular populations makes this truly a gift that is so appreciated. Now, if with your permission, I'd like to allow Brenda to speak to her specific area, and then Shelley will follow up, and then if you have any questions of any of us, we'd be available if that's all right. Thank you.
My name is Brenda Leddington. I'm the teacher of record for students who have hearing impairments or who are completely deaf. I thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to use this new technology with students of different abilities. Technology has changed so much and continues to change, and there are so many applications for my particular students' needs that I am so excited to start using. I have a small population of students that have cochlear implants, and they need specific auditory listening training. When they first are implanted, oftentimes it's the simplest of sounds that they don't understand. What is that? It sounds like a chirp. They've never heard a bird chirp in a tree. So allowing this technology to come in and replicate sounds of nature, which almost is like taking a walk in the park, for them to hear the sounds over and over again, to teach them that's a bird chirping. And eventually, they will be able to use that technology attached to their ear to differentiate between a mockingbird or a cardinal. That's just how good the technology is. So I thank you very much on behalf of the students I serve, allowing them the opportunity to have access to this technology to enhance their learning.
Ms. Shelley?
I'm Shelley Meyer, teacher for students with blindness or low vision, and I just want to add my thanks to that on my colleagues. I am really excited about this iPad because I've been to 3 different conferences this spring that really educated me about the possibilities for using iPad technology with students with low vision, even students who are totally blind. I have 3 different major areas that I want to use it in. One is for my students who have cortical vision impairment. And these are children for whom it's difficult to explain, but they could look out here and all of this visual information is coming in, but they are not able, because of brain injury or other neurological impairments, to make any sense at all out of this visual jumble that they see. So for them, they need very specific types of visual input, which would be certain colors, very simple pictures without a lot of clutter in the background, and something that they can interact with. There are so many apps out there that are perfect for these children where you can choose the color, you can choose one glowing blob that moves slowly across the screen, and for one of these children to actually be able to fixate on that, touch it, and make something happen like an explosion on the screen is a really big deal for them. And that is very significant because every type of visual input that they can understand helps build those neural connections in their brain and helps them understand other visual input. For these same children, I am working toward, it's difficult without the iPad. That's why I'm so excited, because every picture I take has to be printed, or everything I scan has to be printed on a color printer. That gets really expensive. But with the iPad, you can isolate and take a photograph of a familiar object, have just that object on the screen on a plain background. You can teach these children the significant features of that object and then put it in a picture with another object or 2 objects and eventually build, because they're learning the salient features of that object, they can begin to pick it out of a larger array. So they're learning to interpret that familiar object but in a more complex world. This builds their ability to see and interpret what's out there in front of them. So it's really exciting. And finally, for my Braille readers, both of my Braille readers have access to iPads already. I'm the one who doesn't know how to use the iPad, I have to admit. But we are working toward pairing. They have Braille note takers called Braille Sense units, and these Braille Sense units can be paired to an iPad and allow these girls to access the internet independently for research or for communication and be much more independent with that. That's one of my huge goals for 6th grade for these girls, is for me to learn and to help them have access to the internet and to be able to send emails or like their peers are doing. So those are the 3 ways that I'm really looking forward to using the iPad with my particular student population. So again, I just want to say thank you to the Wayne County Foundation. We're really excited about this opportunity.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you all sharing one of the grants?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's one iPad
One
among the
iPad.
3 of you?
We need more.
We're going to thumb wrestle.
This is our first opportunity at grant writing. It will not be our last. We thank you for rewarding our first attempt, allowing us to earn this.
Barb, you have some news?
Yes. I was going to wait till tomorrow, but since they kind of brought it up, we purchased 2 iPads extra, so each of them will have an iPad.
Look at them. This is my favorite part of the meeting.
Oh, thank you.
You guys will want to come to school board meetings more often.
Oh, yes. Your reinforcement's working. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi, I would also like to thank you so much for the opportunity to take some of this money and use it for not keyboards typing, but piano keyboards to be using at Hibbard. It's kind of a new program, so there's very little there to start up to meet the Indiana state standards for middle school students. We need to have an assortment of things that we don't have, and this will get us started. So I'm looking forward to buying some portable keyboards so we can have some keyboard lessons and work with the Indiana state standards for all the middle school students that we are servicing now. Thank you.
Do you have any idea of how many
I can get?
you will be able to purchase?
I found a catalog that has a keyboard for about $100. So if I have a full $500, then I'm probably looking at getting 5 if I can talk to somebody and say, hey, I'm going to get 5. Can you squeeze me in the whole deal? And so that's what I'm looking forward to. At least 4, possibly 5. Thank you.
Just waiting for the next
Yeah,
announcement.
I know. I just wait till the next time around.
Where's Oprah when you need her?
I just, for Dixie, and Dixie probably wants to say, it was a privilege to read the grants, and I am only sorry there wasn't more money, because each and every one of the projects could have used the 3, and all of those. But I thank you for your creativity. But each of these grants was very well written, very well researched, and very well connected to the goals and vision of this school system. So we need to thank you for the good job you did to write those grants, and we're glad we could fund them. Next year, there'll be more. Is that right, Brenda? Okay.
Well, and we did see a classroom full of keyboards at a school
Yes,
we
we
visited, so we will keep working on that.
Well, thank you all so much. It is such a privilege to sit here and to witness the excitement from all of you in getting, receiving your grant dollars, and our kids are going to benefit. That is the number one, obviously the number one reason why we do what we do. So thank you all so much for your work, your dedication, your creativity, and your excitement for teaching and learning. It's much appreciated. And thank you, Pat and Dixie, It was and fun. Mr. Millis for serving on the committee and reading the grants. And awarding.
Only sorry there wasn't more money.
Right.
We're going to work on the foundation, our own foundation, to make sure we have more money, correct?
You say so.
Okay.
Going to work on it.
Thank you. Now we are ready to open our public hearing on our lease. So, do I have a motion?
Actually, you don't need to adjourn.
Oh.
Your public hearing takes place in the context of your meeting.
Okay.
And with indulgence of the chair, I'll help cue you through this.
Please do.
Actually, I would echo your comments about the enthusiasm of the ladies that preceded me. I thought following the kids was going to be a tough act. I misjudged the agenda.
I know, you think you can make this as exciting?
The first matter, we are here tonight for most of the, if you will, substantive action that this board has to take to authorize the issuance of the bonds for the various projects that we've previously identified. They are to be funded by bonds issued by a holding corporation that's been created that we'll talk a little bit more about later, that will purchase the Dennis School facility from the school corporation for a price of $3.9 million, and then we'll use the proceeds to renovate Dennis, and there'll be a division of the other bond proceeds, with some being retained at the level of the school corporation to do the other projects. So the way it works, as I've explained in the past, while the holding corporation or the building corporation owns the building, Richmond Community Schools still needs to operate its educational programming, so we become a tenant of the building corporation. We have a lease that you've previously seen and has not changed in any particular. And tonight's meeting is to have a public hearing on that lease and allow people to comment on it, and the advisability of it, what have you. The first step in the process is for me to provide Ms. Lips with proof of publication, the notice of hearing on this lease, by doing so, and I've examined it, and it is in order. So we would a motion to accept the proof of publication as to the notice of hearing on the lease would be in order.
Okay, Jeff Slifer makes the motion. Pat Heine seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Before I go on to the next matter, I do want to take this opportunity to extend a thanks to a couple of ladies at the Palladium Item who work in the legal ad department. The board and Dr. Borf kind of threw a curve at me by changing the location of this meeting from our usual site to Crestdale for a very good reason that I've enjoyed being a participant in. But that did require some last-minute changes in the notice that you just accepted as proof of publication. And Barb Register and Tammy Yunt did a kind of a heroic job of pulling it out, making some edits that I helped them with, and getting it back online so that we did not have to incur a cost of duplicate publication, and they were able to accommodate our needs. So, and they always do, but a special thank you to the Palladium Item Legal Ad Department for their efforts in this regard. So with that being said, let me, before we open the public hearing on the lease, let me just briefly go through the highlights of the lease. I've explained that the roles of the parties, this building corporation that has been created will act as the lessor. They own the property, they lease it to you. You will pay rent, you being Richmond Community Schools as lessee, in an amount that the exact amount I cannot tell you, but will be determined when we see what the actual interest rate on the bonds is, because that lease rental has to be sufficient to pay the debt service on the bonds, and debt service means the annual installment of principal. We're going to retire these bonds in 6 years, plus the interest rate. And our financial advisor, Mr. Thurber, has given us an estimate of what we can expect, but until we get out into the market, we really never know the exact number. So once we know that exact interest rate, then he will do his magic with Mr. Coddington. We'll come up with an annual rental. It'll be an addendum to the lease that sets forth the amount that we'll start paying, and we'll increase it by about $5,000 a year to pay our trustee, who will be U.S. Bank. Now, U.S. Bank has a local presence. This is not going to be something that's going to be based in Richmond. It'll be at their Corporate Trust Services Department, probably in Indianapolis. I'm not even sure about that. But at least we were able to select a trustee with a local presence, and I think we're glad about that. The term of the lease, as I explained in March 11th when we talked about it, will be 8 years, and I know you said the bonds are only out there for 6. Why 8? Well, it's going to take a while for the project to be constructed. It's going to take a full year in the budget cycle for Mr. Coddington to get a debt service levy approved to pay the rent. So the first rental payment will not be due until July of 2014. However, our lease, our needs for the property will continue, immediately. There will be no interruption in that. So we're going to add a year at the front, and then at the far end, they build in an extra year in case, for whatever the reason might be. But once the bonds are paid off, the lease terminates and title to the property then vests back in Richmond Community Schools. So as I've explained before, this is a legal fiction, if you will, to allow us to borrow money in excess of our constitutional debt limit, but it is a fiction that has to be engaged in. So with that being said, the responsibilities for ensuring, maintaining, and taking care of dentists remain with us as they've been all along, and so that hasn't changed. And the rest of the lease document is pretty much legal jargon. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and if there are none, then it would be appropriate for you to open the floor for any comments from the public and patrons as to things you might have.
Okay, does anyone from the board have any questions or comments? No? Is there anyone from the public wishing to comment or question on the lease?
Well, that's not totally unexpected. So, but in any event, then the next order of business would be the resolution to authorize execution of the lease and the sale of the real estate. I've pretty well covered the highlights that are in that resolution. The copy that was originally provided you on board docs, if you looked at it, did have one error that I corrected today. I caught, and that was the date of publication of the notice of hearing that we just talked about was March 19, not March 21. That's not legally significant, but I did want the resolution to be accurate. So with this, you would be authorizing your president and your secretary to execute the lease, 3 copies of which I provided Ms. Lips. Entertaining questions on the resolution authorizing execution of lease and sale of real estate.
Do I just make a motion that we move forward with it?
Motion be in order if there are no questions.
Motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay. The next item of business would be, and I think, and I'm not sure if you brought them tonight, but Ms. Lips has the patrons' petitions, and they've been circulated by some of you. Thank you. The law requires this as some indicia of public recognition of the need for a facility and support of the facility. I've tried to explain very carefully that this is not the same type of petition that would be circulated if we were engaged in what is known as the petition and monstrance process. These are projects that aren't subject to that because of their size. Each is under $2 million. At least it will be under $2 million. We're dealing with cost estimates until we get firm bids. But nevertheless, the law requires there be some demonstration of public support, and from which this board can find that there is a need for the facilities. And obviously, Mr. Coddington can assure you that absent the issuance of the bonds, you could not fund all of these projects in the time that we're hoping to accomplish their completion without the bond issuance. So that resolution is accepting the patrons' petitions, finding that a need exists for the facilities that are involved in the various projects, and determining that it's appropriate to issue bonds because there is inadequate monies within the regular budget sources of the corporation to fund them. So again, I'd entertain any questions. If not, a motion to adopt would be in order.
Questions? Okay, Pat
Move
Heine.
to adopt the patrons' petition.
Pat Heine makes the motion. Dixie Robinson seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Now, I'd indicated that I'd referred you a couple of times to the building corporation. Sometimes I may slip and say holding corporation because that's the term used in the statute. I've explained that this is the vehicle by which we avoid the constitutional debt limit. And when I say avoid, I don't mean that in a perjurious manner. This is the accepted way to finance capital projects among not just school corporations, but any public entity. For instance, the Wayne County Jail, we happen to have a Board of Directors holding court meeting coming up next Monday. That was financed using the same vehicle because it exceeded the county's ability to borrow directly on the county's behalf. So with that being said, we formed the corporation. It is a public, not-for-profit corporation. It's known as Richmond Multi-School Building Corporation. It's been formed for the purpose of acquiring ownership of the school buildings and leasing them back to the school corporation, and also to issue $7.75 million in what we call ad valorem property tax, which means they're paid back by assessing a tax rate on taxable property within your district through your debt service levy, and in the principal amount of $7.75 million. I would also want to note that we have obtained and volunteered Mr. Kyle Clark, who's with Wayne Bank and Trust, Mr. John Dills, who's with RMD Patty, and Ms. Shelley Miller, who's with West End Savings Bank, as our directors for this. And I told them the pay wasn't good, but their resumes would look just out of sight. So we do thank them, though. They've had to have a couple of meetings, and it is something they take seriously. They ask good questions, and again, though, it's public service for which we extend our thanks to them. Now, I would refer you, well, if you have it in front of you, if you don't, Section 8 of the, we make a couple of covenants, and we talk about these in the past when we've issued tax anticipation warrants or other bonds, what have you. But the first one says that in 2013, the school corporation agrees that it will not cause to be issued more than $10 million in tax-exempt obligations, either directly by you or through a vehicle like your holding corporation or your multi-building corporation. And why this is important is that it would allow purchasers of these bonds, and we expect the purchaser to be a bank, frankly, from what Lonnie Thurber's telling me, but it allows a bank purchaser to get tax advantageous treatment of the interest on this under Section 265B of the Internal Revenue Code. And don't ask me anymore, because that's all I know about it. I avoid tax. But be that as it may, that is a commitment that you're making. I don't think that's an issue. I've talked to Mr. Coddington. We don't foresee the need to borrow in this to the issuance of tax-exempt obligations for the remainder of 2013, and it's a fresh start every year. So if you had a need in 2014, your covenant would not restrict you from doing so. And then the next issue, Section 9, also makes that same type of representation and covenant, but it deals with the number 15 million, and this just qualifies us as a small issue governmental exemption, which means we don't have to worry about calculating and showing the government that we haven't made a lot of money, called arbitrage, on the monies we receive between the times that we go to closing on the bonds and the times that they're actually expended as the projects pay out. So because this is a small governmental exemption, we save about $5,000 in legal fees having to do that computation, let alone the obligation to rebate if we made more money than we were allowed, but that's not really a viable option in this economy. So if there are any questions, I would entertain them. Again, and I do have here, it says, I've got the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws of the holding corp. They're here. If that's the type of thing that excites you, I'll be glad to leave them with you and let you read them to put you to sleep. Otherwise, I would represent that I've prepared them in the usual customary manner for such entities.
Okay, any questions? Okay, Jeff?
Now, this is, when you say not to exceed 10 million under Section 8 and 15 million in Section 9, that's in addition to?
No, that includes these.
That includes this 7.7?
So basically, yeah, if we go forward as planned and issue 7.75 million, that means that to preserve what we've agreed contractually with whomever the purchaser of the bonds might be, we would be limited in our ability to issue further tax-exempt debt during 2013 to $2,275,000.
Okay. So
but again, you get a fresh start.
That would include any kind of an emergency for some reason, so we'd be limited to 2.25
but
million.
If there's a purpose to a tax statute, the purpose is to give a break to this little guy, so to speak. And $10 million doesn't sound little to most people, but in the tax-exempt investment community, I guess it is. And so it does allow, it broadens our market and presumably gives us the advantage of a preferred interest rate to what would prevail if the bank that bought the bonds had to pay regular tax on its interest earnings.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? Okay, do I have someone to make the motion?
So moved.
Aaron Stevens makes the motion, seconded by Suzanne Darengowski. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Moving right along. It's necessary that the bids will be solicited by, and I think you previously authorized at least the letting of notice to bidders for the projects that are under our more immediate timeline, and that would include the Dennis project. So you will be entertaining those bids. You will be making the award of the contract based upon the lowest and best bidders. We do in all public works projects, but it's necessary to assign the Dennis bids to the holding corporation since it's the owner, and it will act as the owner under the contract documents through the construction phase. So this resolution assigning construction bids is for that express purpose. And then we use the term leased premises, but leased premises means Dennis. So, and all of Dennis. So that's not an issue. I did attach to it, although it's not going to be part of the transcript, the breakdown of how we expect the cost or the bond proceeds to be allocated as to who's going to be the party, if you will, doing the work. And you'll note on that second page, if you go to the far right-hand column, you've got far right-hand side of the chart, you've got two columns. One says Building Corp pays, the other says School Corp pays. You will see that the Building Corp is expected to pay for the cost of Dennis and for all of the soft cost, if you will, of the issuance of the bonds for the other projects. Plus, we're leaving technology for the time being in that column with the holding for the Building Corp. So a total of $3.9 million, and that's the purchase price that we will have for, or that is the purchase price we'll have for the Dennis facility. That may change as far as the allocation of work and contracts when we see real bids, but one thing will not change, and that will be that the Dennis bid will be assigned to the Building Corp. So unless there are questions of that,
Okay, do I have a motion? Dixie Robinson, seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, now the next thing we'll talk about is, again, something that I wish I'm going to sound more authoritative than I really am, but under regulations of the Securities and Exchange Commission, as an obligor of these bonds, that means the entity obligated to pay the bonds, you have to make certain representations that if bad things happen to us, we will tell the appropriate people. Bad things meaning things like if we were to default on a payment, if our bond rating were to be reduced, and I say that because just this past week, the rating agency Moody's announced it was going to start examining some bonds in states of Arkansas and Pennsylvania that rely upon what they call a tax intercept system in the event of default, whereby the state, if you will, intercepts monies that would be payable to the school corporation and make sure that those monies get forwarded to the trustee to protect the bondholders. Indiana is a state that has such a system. It's not being looked at right now, and I'm not very concerned about that because I think our underlying debt rating as a school corporation would be quite strong. We are in a very, very good position, and we're getting better each year as our pension bonds pay down. And obviously, our test bonds will pay off. So, but that's just one of the type things, downgrading your bond rating, which may be totally beyond our control. What does it do? Really nothing. It's just you're required to report it. The information gets disseminated through the investment community and to the trustee, obviously. But that is a requirement that the Securities and Exchange Commission has, and it requires this board to adopt a resolution approving and committing to the undertaking set forth in what's known as the continuing disclosure undertaking. So, again, I'd entertain questions, but I wouldn't believe anything I told you beyond what I've said.
Any questions?
This is for the whole length of the bond, right?
Beg your pardon?
This is for any change during the whole length of the debt?
It's not for any change, it's for any adverse change, material adverse change. Example, okay, I mentioned that the Wayne County Jail Holding Corporation owns the jail until those bonds pay out and they've got a ways to go. there's a project going through to widen the street, and we were going to get an eminent domain award of $2,000. Well, that's something that would normally be reported if it's material. Given the value of the property and the amount of the bonds and everything, that's not material, and so we're not going to bother reporting that. But if, for whatever, if three-fourths of the dentist site were to be condemned, that would be something we'd have to deal with. The lease deals with it also, but it would be something we'd have to report.
But the whole entire, the question was for the whole length of the time, though.
It's an ongoing obligation.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Aaron Stevens makes the motion.
Second.
Seconded by Suzanne Darengowski. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
And finally, if you would, you can close the public hearing on the lease, because we've taken all action necessary for the lease and related matters. So,
Okay, I need a motion to close the public hearing on the lease.
So moved.
Suzanne Darengowski makes the motion. Jeff Slifer seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
now, the only other item that we have directly dealing with the bonds, at least at this point, until you get to your action items and approve the engagement letters, is kind of me encroaching upon Mr. Coddington's normal province, and that is we've advertised for an additional appropriation of the proceeds from the sale of dentists, because back to square one, an additional appropriation is merely permission to spend. We have to go through the same process with these funds as you would for any of the other taxpayer funds that would come under your control. So the first item of business is to approve the publisher's proof of publication of the notice of additional appropriation. Again, I reviewed that. It's published in April 11th and is in order.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Pat Heine makes a motion. Seconded by Aaron Stevens. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
And the resolution is self-explanatory. It is just having determined that you will be receiving $3.9 million in proceeds from the sale of the dentist facility. You're asking permission to spend it for the purposes set out in the resolution. You will note that among the projects listed in the resolution is the technology project, and I just got through telling you not too long ago that that was going to be probably done by the building corp. Well, I caught that and questioned that and got a compliment from our bond counsel for having caught it, so I appreciated that. But the reason for including it is in case these bids come in low and we're able to do all of the other projects and still have money left, then some of those funds, whether they're 1.75 million or not, some of those funds could then be could be used for our technology piece, in part at least, and that would not entail the necessity of coming back and doing another additional appropriation. So Jane was very, I think, much forethought in preparing the resolution to at least create that option. Mr. Mays can tell us how likely it is to come in under, our bids come in under estimate or not. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, it would be, if there aren't any questions from the board, then the next step would be to invite public comment on the additional appropriation.
Okay, anyone from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none?
I get the same result you do normally. So if there are no further comments or questions, then adoption of the additional appropriation resolution, which you have, would be in order.
Okay, do I have a motion? Pat Heine makes the motion, seconded by Dixie Robinson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
I don't know that I'm any more riveting than Mr. Coddington, but certainly I appreciate your attention.
Thank you.
Ron, on these letters of engagement, we just have the approval. We're just asking for the approval of the letters of engagement.
Approval of them, and it's been a while since I've looked at them. I can explain ours, but ours is basically time-driven. I can't recall what I think the others were hard dollar figures.
Right. So do we need to do each of those separately? take a motion? Okay. Okay, first then we will do the Ice Miller letters of engagement. Do I have a motion? Jeff Slifer makes the motion.
Second.
Seconded by Aaron Stevens. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now, we will do the Thurber and Brock. Do I have a motion to approve those engagement letters?
So moved.
Moved by Pat Heine, seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And now, Boston Beaver, Clingy Cross, and Chittister.
So moved.
Motion made by Suzanne Darengowski.
Second.
Seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
At this point, we would like to bring Mr. Mays to the podium and request permission to advertise for the Richmond High School athletic field renovations. He will go over that just briefly.
I thought it was food.
It's a pizza.
That doesn't look like
Easter egg in
nearly
here.
enough.
You can pass that.
That's because it's going to snow tonight. He wants us to show us what grass really looks like.
Heavy grass.
Well, I don't think we have to pass it.
That doesn't look like enough at all.
There's an Easter egg in here.
Okay, this is the synthetic turf that we're proposing for the football field, soccer field, band area, and also the gym class area. And that what we're looking at is putting it around the track. This is the north end. Civic Hall is right here. Coming around here and then stopping it right in this area here so that we will then put asphalt here for some field events for track, like high jump and pole vault. This is a aerial of what's there now, so this is where the pole vault is presently located. Then you can see that we're putting red in the end zone with white Richmond at each end and then a big red R in the middle. And all this, none of this material, the white or the red, is painted. It's all the same fabric material that you have in front of you. And what this is the material that it starts out with. And you can see that it's real flat and doesn't stand up. Then they put a combination of sand and little rubber pebbles in there that makes the grass stand and soft. And if you put your hands down on the top of it, you can feel how soft it is.
Now that looks
like what happens there, if you look through that, there's holes. Turn that upside down, you can see the holes in the bottom of it, and then that's where the water from rain and snow and so forth comes through, and then we have a drainage system under that area, and then it's carried off then to the river. But we will put a concrete curb that will be level with the track and the grass that goes all the way around this, that holds this in place. And that I think maybe once a year they come in and there's a machine that we have that the school will have that just straightens all those little pebbles around and it's all set to go again. But this is what we're looking at. The yellow part is the soccer, and of course the white lines is where football is.
And when will this be done by?
Okay, that's a good question. That's a good question. It has to be done by August the 2nd, which is the first day that they can legally have football practice. And then the first game will be on it will be August the 23rd is the first home game that we have. Now, soccer will be able to use that. I think their soccer season starts a little bit earlier, and they'll be able to use the field probably before the first football game. But the whole area, they can practice on this whole area. That's why we're putting field turf in this area right there.
So all the lines and everything,
Everything
it will
is
not be painted?
No,
It will
nothing's
all be-
painted. It's all part of that carpet material with a everlasting, so it doesn't, you know how paint will fade and wear off. This is all part of the carpet, and it's actually sewed in there. And the carpet lays loose on the drainage material that we have under, and then the weight of the sand and the rubber pebbles keep it in place and keep it down. We can have a 50-year rain, and it's all designed, the drainage system is all designed to immediately evacuate the water. And that's the problem they had this year. It seemed like every Thursday and Friday night we had rain, and by the time the season was half over with just the football team using it, it was pretty muddy and nasty. That there's no drainage system under the field that's there. And if we were going to upgrade and keep the natural turf there, we would still have to go in and put this underground drainage system in to evacuate the water. The next part of the project is, again, this is an aerial where right here is where the existing bleachers are. And so we're going to move those bleachers over to this side of the field. We're going to demolish the concrete bleachers and the press box that's there, and then we're going to pour a concrete slab in here to set the existing bleachers on, and that this is part of the bleachers sections, and then this is the other part, and we have 400 seats on this side and around 1,500 here, and with the combination of this will give us roughly 2,000 seats on this side and 400 on this side. What we're good that we have two handicap ramps existing now, and the size of these bleachers, we only need one, so then we're going to put the other one over here. So we're actually able to use all the parts, all the railings, all the fencing, all the handrails without buying anything new. What we have scheduled is that the framework, as they demolish the framework, they're going to put it out here on the this end of the practice field and spray paint all of it and clean it before we reinstall it. So then once that's all painted and cleaned, then they'll come in here and finish that area. And that's, as we know, also has to be done by the 2nd of August. Then we're going to put a new press box right here, and it will be smaller than the press box that we have now, but working that with Chad and look at the various more usable space in there, that it's going to be 48 feet long and 10 feet wide. With the extra width, we're able to put another platform inside the one floor. So we'll have a lower platform that the press and the radio and Troy will use in here, and then we have an upper platform just right behind them that sports writers and people like that can use, so that it's more compact, but it's also more efficient. So that's all part of this particular bid. Then once we get this going, then we'll come back and we have to have a bid that we'll do for the sewer. But what our plan is, the bid date is at 2 p.m. on May the 14th. We want to have a recommendation to the board on May the 22nd, and the completion date of August 2nd for the start of football practice, soccer, and so forth. If you want to see kind of how this works, you could drive by the new baseball diamond that they're putting on the south campus of Earlham, and they're putting this same material that you have in front of you on their new baseball diamond outfield, and actually they take the infield and make it a brown color so that everything is artificial. And that'll give you an idea of what we're going to do. So it takes 60 days to do this work. So they're all geared. I've talked to several contractors that are going to be bidding this, and they're all geared to start immediately so that we'll be done August the 2nd. I need permission to advertise. It goes in the paper if you approve it on Friday.
Okay, well, let's get it done.
Good.
Do I have a motion? Aaron Stevens makes the motion. Suzanne Darengowski seconds the motion. Comments, questions? All in favor? Oh, Dixie?
I just wanted to know what is, you said this was cushioning in this?
Yes.
But it's loose?
Yes, it's all loose.
Okay.
You know, I really wasn't that familiar with the product until this last fall, and I saw a couple of college games where the running back would run and then cut, and you could see some of those rubber things flip up at that time. But that's natural. And then they just, like I say, at the end of the season, they'll put them all back in place.
So do they still wear the same kind of shoes?
Yes,
cleats?
still wear the same kind of shoes. No, when they had artificial turf before, they had to wear a special shoe. But no, these you can wear any shoe with that.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
We'd like to present the donations for your official receipt. Mr. Coddington.
Good evening. I'd be remiss tonight before we do the donations. There was a lot more going on last spring too. About this time, we were going to do all of those building projects, and it was going to be spearheaded by Mr. Ron Robinson. And he became very ill very quickly, and right before any of this could be started, he passed away. And a lot of water has gone over the dam since then. And I want to be able to say that John Hamilton and Glenn Slifer stepped up to the plate without missing a beat. They assumed leadership roles, and their work last summer is the reason they both got promoted last fall, because of what they did. So as I talk about the donations tonight, there's been a lot in memory of Ron Robinson. So let me start from First Bank Richmond to the Community Partnership and Engagement Office for our mentoring program. And from Nancy Huber, RHS Environmental Services, Kathy Ray, Sue Abner, Test Middle School faculty, Dr. Alan Borf, Ray Wolpe, Tammy Rhodes, Connie Miller, Frank Ward, Pam Lips, Richmond Community Schools food service employees, Kathy Parker, Janet Elstro, Karen Scalf, Barb Bergdahl, Ann England, Bader Mechanical, Cheryl Wall, Brenda Bland, and Carla Chasteen, Aaron and Allison Chaffont, Linda Horner, Anonymous, John Sansbury and family, Kurt and Brittany Horner, Sarah Wagers, David and Betty Fox, KIVA Plastics, Ruth and Tom Swafford, John Bobbier, and Kathy Glunt. The faculty and staff of Winchester Driver Middle School, educational shippers, Jeffrey and Kathleen Miller, Daniel McFarland, RP&L Parallax, David Stidham, Flexcon, Jeff Jeffers and J.M. Hutton, Saver Systems, Paul Lingle, Jim Catron, ACT Environmental Services, Wayne Builders Supply, Catron's Glass, Pat Heine, Dixie Robinson, Linda Morgeson, Kelly Baumgardner, Leon Thomas Construction, Cummins Electric, Mays Design Inc., Dave Industrot, Premium Supply Inc., Reynolds Builder Products, Jeff Slifer and Aces, and Carroll Electric. We ask tonight to the board to accept the donations to the in memory of Ron Robinson for the Memorial Plaza in $32,630.65.
I think you missed one donation, didn't you? I didn't hear Robert and Connie Coddington.
Yes,
Ah.
they were on the list.
I so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Our next action request is to extend the year for freshmen next year, as we have been doing for the last couple years, but also to add an extended year by 1 day for the fifth graders next year. This would enable us to have a somewhat abbreviated day for the fifth graders coming in as part of their orientation into intermediate school. They would also be equipped with or provided mentors, just as the freshmen are provided mentors by upperclassmen, and the principals are working on that as we speak. They went back to their staffs and asked before I brought it to you to see if this was an idea that could be supported, and the staffs indicated support.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Pat Heine makes a motion, Suzanne Darengowski seconds it. Comments or questions? Pat?
Excuse me, Dr. Borf, just a bit of clarification. For the ninth graders, the mentors are kickoff mentors. They are juniors and seniors. For the fifth graders, are you thinking students or teachers?
Seventh and eighth graders.
Seventh and eighth grade students would
That's
be the
great.
mentors. That would make a lot of sense.
If you remember, the seventh and eighth grade students last year were provided leadership training by members of Earlham College.
Right.
It was part of the summer school.
Great.
So we're hopeful that maybe that can happen again this summer.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now we're on to reports, discussion topics.
Good evening. Could we go to page 3, please, on this? We're going to give our quarterly update on fiscal year 2013. I will start out by saying there are no material surprises in anything that we've been talking about since last October, but there's some good news. But I wanted to go over some of these numbers because we've got some timing issues that I want to talk about. So after 3 months, our revenue, not surprisingly, is down $374,000 because of the state basic grant and the formula that we have for 2013. Our other income is down $129,000, and this is real money going down. We had our indirect cost ratio reduced from 2.34% to 0.34%. Now, that doesn't mean a lot to anybody here, but for every grant that we get and for food service to administrate payroll and finance and this, we get to take an indirect cost to the general fund to pay for those services. And the state and the federal government tells us what those indirect costs can be, and as interest rates and everything else, they've reduced those costs, which will hurt. So we can't take money from food service that we normally, as much as we normally do, to help support the general fund. So our revenue's down, not unexpected, but $374,000. Our expenditures, now this is what you wouldn't expect to see, and you won't see at the end of the year. Our expenditures are up $231,000. Our salaries are down $177,000, and that's a good thing, and that will carry throughout the year. Our benefits are up $550,000, and this is a timing issue. If you remember last year, we used to pay perf and turf payments quarterly. And in October, we started paying them twice a month. We're in that interim period right now that we're paying them every 2 weeks, and next month you will see a $550,000 charge that's overstated today, and it'll be understated next month. At the end of the year, I'm glad to say that we're going to end our financial statements better than the $800,000 that we thought in October, better than the $600,000 that we thought. One, we're going to balance the budget, but the gap keeps closing every month in our forecast, and it's going to be at about $500,000. Could you go to the next slide, please? One of the things that I keep talking about, and I'm alerting you, we don't have an issue now, but when I got here in 2005, we had cash balances of $22 million. We had the pension bond cash balance, we had the test leasehold cash balance, we had a lot of grants. If you got a $2 million grant, they'd write you a check for $2 million, and then you would spend it all year. Well, all of that has changed now, and they're saying, oh, not only has it changed that they don't give us the money up front, we have to spend it before they give it to us. And if you look at our $22 million 2005 cash balance, last year was $15 million, and this year we have less than $7 million in cash balance. Now, $7 million sounds like a lot of money until you get a 3-pay month. And then you have to do interfund loans. You only get your taxes in May and November. Now, our cash flow is fine in 2013. But in 2014, I'm trying to lay the pipe that the board will understand. We will probably have to go for tax anticipation warrants to meet our temporary cash needs in 2014. If you would go to our cash flow and general fund, please. So we know where we are for the month. We know where we are for the quarter. My favorite form. I really like cash flow. It gives us a real indication of where we are. I feel comfortable in the numbers. But right now, where we are, before we have any of the summer changes in staff, we've got, I believe right now, we have 11 people that we're retiring that we're planning on replacing. But those 11, in all practical purposes, if our retirees are at the top of the market, we know last year that we saved $30,000 per employee that left and came in. If we do that, 11 times 30,000 is 330,000. We had a minus 526. We're on target to balance the budget. Remember, we talked to the board again back in October that said we might need some one-time money this year, up to $469,000 to balance our budget. It's not a surprise, that's a good number. I don't believe it's going to be $469,000. If we save $330 starting this spring, that becomes a $200,000 number. And if we continue to ratchet down and see the energy savings in the utilities, I keep saying every year, at some point in time, we're going to bottom out in utilities and they're going to go up. We're still doing a great job of monitoring at the facility level all utilities. And year to date, our utility rates are down from last year, and last year was the lowest they'd been in 8 years. So I believe we've got a good financial picture to say. I know where we are, where we need to be, where we're going, and we have a plan to get there. I would be glad to entertain any questions that the board might have. Thank you. I enjoyed being with you.
Thank you.
Our next report involves policy 5421, which would have to do with weighted grades. This is an issue at the high school. I wanted to alert the board that there is now an administrative guideline that we will be putting in place, and the purpose of this information tonight is just to make you aware of what that is. Mrs. Wolpe is here tonight. If there are questions, but I can tell you that this has been in the making for several years. This conversation began a number of years ago. And what has driven the process very quickly this year and decisively is that we will be offering several more advanced placement courses next year. And one of the reviews that we had from Notre Dame as it came through and examined our program was that we didn't have adequate steerage, if you will, to promote more rigorous coursework by students, and especially the advanced placement courses that we were talking about adding. So Mrs. Wolpe, using some of that momentum started by Notre Dame, was able to work with her staff, collect their thoughts, and present this particular guideline. Now, keep in mind, the important piece is this doesn't start until next year's freshman class begins coming through. If we did it otherwise, there would be other problems, and basically the problem would be that we are changing the game plan mid-game for those students. So this won't affect current high school students, but it will begin affecting the freshmen next year. Mrs. Wolpe, anything that you would like to add?
Thank you. We're excited. One of the things I think that Dr. Borff mentioned was there's been a lot of research done recently in the last several years on advanced placement classes and the rigor that they pose. And not only the advanced placement classes, but also the pre-advanced placement classes. And what all this research says is the more students that take an advanced placement course in high school, it correlates to their success in college. And so that's why we think it's so important. And the fact that Richmond High School will now be offering 11 advanced placement courses. The grant also affords our teachers to be trained, to be mentored by the Notre Dame folks. The Notre Dame group will come on Saturdays and have workshops for our students. They will have mock tests. So it's just a wonderful opportunity for Richmond High School. So we're very excited. Questions?
I don't know how to get you. I attended the ceremony yesterday, and it is really very exciting. So I'm assuming that you are seeing these guidelines as a recruitment tool, almost an incentive.
Exactly.
For AP classes. Will you be using that language? Will you be aggressively? I don't even want to use assertively. How about aggressively?
Our counselors have been talking to our students. Our current AP teachers have been going to some of the honors classes, talking to our students about the advanced placement classes. One of the other things that I heard from a couple of our high ability students was the fact that they had to wait until their junior year to take an advanced placement class. Well, that is now moved down to the 10th grade year. So we will have advanced placement classes as early as their sophomore year.
But the purpose of the weighted grading system is to promote taking those courses.
That's right.
Because it's sometimes a detriment to their GPA to take a more rigorous course, in their opinion.
That's correct. And
This
what happened is a lot,
addresses that.
you know, a student might say, and I might have said that, you know, any of us might have said that when we were in high school, oh my gosh, I'm not sure I'm going to take AP chemistry. I'm not going to take that because I'm not sure I would get an A in it, where I could take a lower level course and get an A. And right now it's all equal. So this really rewards the student who steps out there and says, I'm going to challenge myself, and I am going to challenge myself with the rigor of an advanced placement class.
How are you communicating this to parents?
We have, at our 8th grade orientations, we spoke to the weighted grade proposal. We informed them that this was a draft. If everything is approved tonight, we will be sending the information to all of the 8th grade parents. We will also have it in our handbook, and then we will also spend time with our incoming 9th graders, informing them of the new weighted grade policy. But I think the first thing is getting this information out to parents immediately in case they might want to say, oh my gosh, I think I will talk to my student about taking honors English in 9th grade as opposed to just the academic English.
Okay, so it does have ramifications for the 9th graders, even though they won't be taking AP until
Right.
sophomore
They
year.
will want to take the AP, pre-AP courses because those are weighted also. The honors classes are weighted a half a point, and the AP classes and the dual credit courses from 4-year colleges or universities are weighted an entire point.
Suzanne?
One thing I've learned from the colleges is that the strength of schedule, it plays a very important role in the students as they go to try to go to whatever school of their choice. And so this speaks to that very heavily. And we talk a lot about SATs and those kinds of things, but strength of schedule is very high on the list.
Well, when Notre Dame came and spoke with us, they shared with us that their admissions department doesn't look at GPA, doesn't look at the SAT. The first thing they look at, they take a highlighter and they highlight on the transcript how many AP courses the student has taken. That's one of the first things that they do. So I believe that's indicative of how important the level of courses that you take when you're in high school.
I think Jeff had some too.
Well, I think this has been, we should have done this a long time ago. Because the other piece of that is the students look at it from an equity point of view. Students say, well, wait a minute, why should so-and-so have the same GPA as I when they didn't take as difficult courses as I took? So I support this whole.
I think it's been on and off the table many times in
Timing
the
is
last
great, though,
year.
with the inclusion of the extra.
Well, I'm a little confused about what we need to do. We already have the policy, correct?
We're not asking for an approval tonight.
No.
Because you've given an approval. We wanted you to be aware of it. In fact, it's best placed in guidelines because our courses may change. We may add to our advanced placement courses, or we may revise some of these weights.
So it's already in policy?
Yes, you've been provided
A copy of
the
that,
policy.
right. And so what we're talking about now are administrative guidelines. And so what do they need in order to move forward with the publicity and stuff?
You're ready to go.
You're ready.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
It's exciting.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're just getting it all. You're getting a new football field and new weighted grades and. Yes, and we have soccer back in the high school. Yes. Great.
The other report that I wanted to bring to the board was Policy Section 8000. It's a major section of our policy handbook. And Pat Heine, Jeff Slifer, and I, a member of the REA, was invited through many of the discussions, but we have been working on that for several months.
Laboriously.
And there are also guidelines that accompany this. Now, the guidelines are not included in this because they come after the approval of the policies themselves. So Neola, our agency that processes these documents, has not been given the guidelines to process yet. So tonight, I wanted to present these to you. What you do with them is that's your prerogative.
I think I speak for Jeff and and myself to say that we believe the rest of you should trust us, that we have read, I mean, honestly, we have read every word, correct, Jeff?
Twice, 3 times,
Twice,
4
3
times.
times, and even fought over some of the words. And Mr. Roget was great accompaniment sometime. But I would feel very comfortable recommending to my cohorts on the board that we move this to second reading and use this as first reading.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion made by Kelly to move policy section 8,000 to second reading. Do I have a second?
I second it, and I did read it.
Dixie. For you. Didn't we do a good job there, Dixie?
No, I read it.
Dixie
Yesterday.
seconds the motion. Comments or questions? Other than thank you for, to Jeff and Pat and Dr. Boer
It
for.
was.
I really, now, I hate to say this, I hate to admit it publicly, but I like reading policies. Because it gives us a sense of, I wish you wouldn't giggle.
Yeah, that's just about as bad as me reading the contract.
Yes,
But Pat, there are more sections to go.
I know,
It
I
was
know.
on the
But
committee.
you only
You
have
only
6
have
more,
so many months.
you have 6 more months, that's all. But the point is, we needed to bring many of these things up to date because so many things were out of date. These were safety policies and so many other things have changed. So it was my honor to work
Well,
on
thank
these.
you.
Who was on it from the REA?
Well, that's a good question.
Was it
because no,
Her name slips me.
she couldn't attend most of the meetings, and that's why I don't think
All right.
it comes to mind.
Okay.
I've got it written someplace. Let me write it.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Do not tweet that I like policies.
Now we're ready for our 2020 vision.
The first comment that we wanted to talk about, or the first topic that we wanted to talk about, is the Excel Center. And as you all know, we've been meeting with the Excel Center, we've been talking to the Excel Center and the YMCA for a number of months, and we have progress to announce in that we have moved to the point where they have agreed, the two groups have agreed how the building would be shared. And 2 weeks ago, I think we were having some problems because both groups wanted a particular portion of the building. We've come to a resolution on that. Now, the reason we're not able to talk any further is that movement forward is contingent on budget approval by the General Assembly. Funding for the Excel Center is tied into the next budget for the biennium. So until that's settled, and it will be settled this week or Monday, until that happens, I hesitate to say this is a recommendation yet, but we are getting very close to the point a recommendation can be made.
Comments or questions?
Is the contract, proposed contract, has that been completed?
It can't be completed until that funding piece is resolved.
So the amount of the lease payment is really the only thing that's left in dispute?
Pretty much, and the term, the length of the lease.
Could we go ahead and get a copy of the contract so we can read that, and we can always fill in the numbers later? But I'm interested in the responsibilities of the school corporation and the proposed tenant and some of those things, that if we could go ahead and get a copy of that, that'll give us a head start on.
The contract, I don't have a contract to give you. When you ask about the terms, there has been somewhat an agreement to many of the terms, but a contract hasn't been drafted. I think you were given a sample contract, but don't use that sample as.
Well, that's part of the
an
problem.
idea.
I don't think we've received anything. I've not received a sample contract.
Well, okay, the sample contract was a sample they used in Lafayette, I believe. So it really wouldn't apply here. It's a whole different building and structure. That's what we have kind of based some of our knowledge of how they approach a lease. But there is no lease to give you yet. But as soon as the details are hammered out, that's what we're all meeting about, including the YMCA.
Well, I guess I'm just going to reiterate, we had this discussion and said move forward, but we really have received, as a board, no additional information other than we're working on it. And I feel that this is a huge commitment for the corporation. It's a 5-year commitment. So I would like to see the board brought in a little bit more into what's going on with the negotiations, because what's going to happen is, because of the timeline, they're going to want to snap their fingers quick, because they're going to want to put staff in place.
You are
And I don't
exactly
want to,
right.
I don't want to be like past projects and have to vote against something because I don't have time to understand something, so.
I can only give it to you as quickly as I can get it, and
Right.
I can tell you I don't have it right now.
Do you have any idea if the term will still be 5 years?
It may only be 2, because the biennium budget is only good for 2 years.
And,
That's
and
part of
so
the issue.
have you had conversation about I guess the upkeep of the building, or who will be responsible for what repairs, or?
We have had conversations, yes. We have had that.
And those are the kinds of things I think that Jeff is referring to, you know, what will be the financial responsibility of the board of Richmond Community Schools. I think that's probably what we are most, or have a concern about.
And rightly so. But until that, I don't know how many times I can say it in different ways. Until that General Assembly makes its determination, I can't go, they won't go
So that will
any further.
determine what they feel they can
I think so.
put into the building, or what they can be responsible for.
As I understand it, yes.
Aaron?
Just from my understanding, for my clarification then, until something is done in Indianapolis or wherever, XL is waiting on that process. I know that the YMCA, their board has to come to some type of agreement as understanding. Until those certain entities get, you know, all of their ducks are in order, we can't receive a contract. Therefore, we're not going to know what each entity's responsibilities are.
That's correct.
That's my understanding. I do have one question though. With XL and with, lack of a better expression, a gentleman's agreement between XL and the YMCA, and the discussion that we're having that, you know, we'll have this marriage, is there still the possibility of any other entities becoming involved with it down the road?
I
with
think
this
so.
particular
There's
building?
extra capacity in the building, so
Okay.
there could be some further interest expressed and maybe negotiated.
Well, I'm excited about, you know, not just, well, XL, but specifically with YMCA, because as of a couple weeks ago, still, you know, that was up in the air right now, with the potential of it not being a part of the, you know, piece of the puzzle. However, it seems like some movement has been made, and thank you for all that. Even while we were at our national conference, that the conversations were going on rigorously. And even speaking with the director of the YMCA yesterday, he was very excited about the possibility, because, you know, 2 weeks ago, you know, that may not have happened, but he was quite excited about it. So, you know, I'll just anxiously wait until XL and the YMCA can, you know, when their ends are together and their pieces are together, then I'll look for the contract.
I also wanted to ask, so the budget from the state, how does that affect Excel with their other leases and so forth? Or are they waiting to see if they have gotten extra appropriations? I just don't know how this works.
As I understand it, if we had a contract with them right now, as I understand it, that would be honored. There is no contract. So the appropriation or the cap that has been discussed could include Richmond. We don't know yet whether it would, or any expansion beyond what they have right now. I think that's the question, and we need to be patient. The General Assembly ends this week or Monday, and so I think we'll know something at that point.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Clear as can be.
Next item would be projects update, and Mr. Mays, we're getting closer to the end of at least one phase of project updates.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to give you an update on all the projects we're working on. This is a picture of the Dennis Gym, which is 100% completed at this point, and that we just took this the other day. But the Dennis Gym project, the students started using it April the 8th. It was right on schedule, right after spring break, and the only remaining work are some punch list items to be incorporated, and that's to be done after school hours, so that if you go over there any time of the day, that's being used. I'm telling you, they're really using it. On the Dennis renovation project, we had a pre-bid walkthrough yesterday with contractors interested in bidding the project. The bid date is at 10 a.m. on May the 1st, with a recommendation to the board May the 8th, so that we can get that project started the day that school's out. On the Hibbard unit ventilator replacement project, we also had a pre-bid walkthrough today, and the contractors were there looking at all the components and parts that they had to put together there. Again, the bid date is at 10 a.m. on May the 1st, with recommendation to the board on May the 8th. So we're running both of those projects to the board together. The Hibbard parking lot and sidewalks, both on the north elevation and the south elevation, of course, we have under contract, and they're scheduled to start June 3rd, the day the school's out. The Charles School, the 4-classroom renovation, new parking lot and canopy on the west side of the gym. The drawings are 75% complete. We have 2 students from the Career Technology Education Program as part of their project, and they're doing all the drafting for me for the design. And they're so much into the project that they both worked over spring break. so that we're progressing, and we hope to have that to you on the May 22nd meeting, and that I'm going to, with permission of the board, I'm going to have the students make the presentation so that they can see what we're doing. And in a future board meeting, you'll see some awards that one of those students has gotten recently. On the Vale and Westview humidity control project, we said we were going to do that in 2014. Well, we've already started working on the control. We're doing a study. The recommendation to the board will come in July on what we want to do there, with the design drawings and specifications being complete in January of 2014, and then construction starting summer of 2014. So that's where we are at this point. If the Excel project goes through, we'll be showing what we're going to do there. Thank you very much.
And we would obviously love to have the students come and present to us.
Thank you.
I think I speak
I've
on
been
behalf of
talking
the
to them,
board.
and they're anxious to do that.
Good.
They are, that's great.
We would.
Linda?
Pat?
Ron, I was at Hibbard with the early college group, and they were all very complimentary about that building. But I have a question about the entryway. It's a beautiful space. And will there be anything in that entryway? Potted plants or benches or something?
There'll be benches around. There's 3 benches that go around the flagpole.
But I mean inside the entryway, you know, that area with the blue carpet?
Oh.
Will there be anything in there?
There would be no benches in there, but there could be some potted plants and things. We are part of that project, we have money in the budget for landscaping, and that could be part of it. We have money in the budget for lighting, and that if you look how the Ron Robinson Memorial kind of lays out, it really doesn't make too much sense until we work in the sidewalk and the drop-off lane and all that. And I think, boy, and then the walk up to the upper area. And once all that's tied together, it's going to be a really, really interesting entrance.
Which is why I thought the blue carpeted area needed something of interest.
It does.
To be welcoming.
Absolutely, it does. It does.
So you, okay.
We will do that.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
We are now ready for our press conference.
I don't have any questions.
No questions? No questions. Okay, you guys are easy on us. We're ready for our consent items.
And our consent items tonight include approval of the April 10th, 2013 board meeting and executive session minutes, recommendation by Human Resources, recommendation from Accounts Payable, and a recommendation for an approval on corporation-sponsored travel from the Richmond High School Travel Club.
And we're going to go ahead and do our motion, and then we're going to ask you guys to come up because you've waited here all this time, and we want to hear what you are going to do. So, do I have a motion for the consent items? Motion made by Pat Heine, seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. Comments, questions? Please come forward. And thanks for your patience.
On those chairs.
Exactly.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi.
I'm Kate Hogg. This is Meg Rayburn. Do you want us to share with you what our plans are? Are you going to ask us questions
We
first?
sent you a lot of information, so we're not sure what questions you may have.
What is the genesis of your club?
Well, we both have students that have never really traveled outside of Richmond nor Indiana, and I think part of learning includes experiencing the world around them. And so we took some of those ideas that they were giving us, and we thought, why not start a club to benefit our kids? And so we're trying it.
One of the neat things for me is, well, you guys probably remember Judy Craig. She was my Latin teacher in high school. And she took me on a trip about 20 years ago to Italy. And it was the, I guess, #1 trip of my high school journey. That's the #1 thing that I remember. And I remember going to Italy. I remember meeting families and learning about the culture. But I also remember Mrs. Craig and the way that she allowed us to explore the world and taught us more about the places that we were going as well. So I think as teachers, we're excited also to be able to take our kids on a journey outside of the classroom and experience another place.
Who is eligible for this? Members of your club?
Yeah, you have to have a GPA, a high GPA, attendance rate, and so on, just like any academic or sport or extracurricular activity. So you have to qualify to be in the club, but anybody can join, any high school student of any age.
When we first presented it, there were about 60 kids total at one meeting that came, and it's trickled down to about 15 or so on a regular basis. But we have kids that are really committed and excited about the possibility.
But the students who are in the club are the ones eligible to go.
Yes, so we have kids who are ready to commit to the trip as soon as we're able to do that. But then incoming students can also join our trip as well. And it's not just limited to freshmen. Anyone in the high school can join.
So you don't have to be a member of the club to go on this trip?
You do. But first anybody can join the club, but then to remain in the club, you need to meet those requirements that we set forth, and we constantly check them to make sure their behavior's okay, their academics are okay, and so on. So if something like that comes to our attention, then they're obviously disqualified. So
the other thing is, too, that the tour, the company that we've chosen to travel with, if this gets approved, is organized so that they handle all of the monetary end. They handle the payment plan. They handle most of the questions that the parents have for financial issues or any other issues pertaining to security or travel arrangements and things like that. So
how
that's
about the monetary part of it? How is that coming along?
Well,
Go ahead. We're waiting on approval from you guys first to even start it, to get it going, but our interested and very dedicated students have already come up with a number of fundraisers that they could disperse for the whole club or individual fundraisers. And then their parents, and most of them, we have a girl who's never been outside of Ohio. And she's already saved $27, which means probably very little to most of us, but it's a big deal for her, and it's a big deal to us.
she gives us an update regularly, $2 here, $5 here.
Yeah,
And
so they're working on it. We're waiting on the next step so we can go further.
the tour company also has scholarships. They award over $30,000 a year for scholarships for kids. They have to write an essay to the organization, and with their essay and financial need information sheet, they then decide who gets chosen for the scholarships. So we as teachers are doing what we can to help them organize fundraisers, but individually they can solicit help as well.
This is a Smithsonian trip?
It is.
Smithsonian
It's EF Tours. It's Educational First Tours. It's the nation's #1 tour company. The Smithsonian Tour Company, it's Smithsonian Student Travel. They are the domestic version, so they just deal with travel in the United States, and then if ever this expands to Italy or anywhere beyond, we would be dealing with the EF Tour partner.
Any other questions or comments?
I think you covered all my questions. I was most interested in, I mean, it's a fairly pricey trip, and so how to make sure that all kids would be eligible, that's always the question the board has.
Sounds like you or they picked a good place to go. San Francisco, I think.
I'll carry the luggage.
San Francisco and Los Angeles.
Yeah.
They're very excited. So we were shooting for something more rustic, but I think they're ready to travel to the city and play on the Star Walk of Fame and go on a car ride. So.
We have a Freedom Riders connection out there, so we could use that to our advantage, and there's some service learning opportunities, so it'll be more than just the itinerary, I guess, given to you. So
How often does your club meet?
once a week, often. In the mornings, they come early, 7:30, 7:45, and that's also a big deal for many of our kids to get there early, because a lot of them are involved in sports or extracurricular activities outside of school. So once a week, usually, we just give updates or we get excited or talk about fundraising, what we can do.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank
We
you.
hope it goes well.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion carried. And now we're ready for our second public commentary. Do we have anyone wishing to speak? No, seeing none, we will move on to our follow-up of old business.
I would just like to say that I commend the board for making the trek out to San Diego for the school board conference. I don't know how many of you received an email yesterday concerning certificates of attendance.
Right.
Yes. If you print those out, not that you need the points, but you can earn points for all those seminars that you attended. I think our badges contained some element that registered as you went through the door of any of those seminars, so you automatically were registered. One of the messages that I came back with after going through so many different sessions, and I admit I focused a lot on the technology sessions because there were so many of them, but the message that I received from the conference was that we must begin looking at equipping our students, maybe even accelerating the pace of some of our planning.
Yesterday was what I was going to say. I felt like we were behind, before we could even have a chance to get there.
I attended, in fact, and I know that Jeff and I attended a couple of the sessions that were the same, and I don't know what his take was from that, but mine was exactly that. We need to find a way to move that plan forward, because our students are already expected by standards of technology and in other places. Our students are expected to know some things that we may not be, and as far as technology use, we may not be bringing to the table on a daily basis. So there are different ways of doing it. One-to-one is one way, but there are different definitions of one-to-one. And I know that Rob Tidrow has talked about that with his committee for some time, and Jeff has been on that committee. So the conversation's taking place. I think we simply need to accelerate the pace of the conversation.
Yeah. So
Well, I think that leads us in to the message that I had sent out to everyone concerning our conversation about our experience at the National School Board Conference, and how we take that information that we all received and make it applicable to what we're doing here, and to think about the conversations during our work sessions that we've had with our teachers, our administrators, our parents, our community members. And so I kind of broke it down, and obviously one of them was technology. So, you know, I guess I would just like to start out by saying that as I thought about the sessions that I attended on technology, and as I began to do some thinking about how I would organize my thoughts, it's not so much for me as to how we go about doing it, because it seems as though there are many ways to go about doing the technology, whether it's obviously one-to-one, where do we start, how do we make sure that our teachers get the training that they so need in order to make whatever we do successful. So I was, you know, thinking in those terms, and flipped classrooms seem to be a very a topic that was in many sessions. And I know Dr. Borf and I attended a session done by Center Grove schools here in Indiana, in Greenwood, and they actually started with kindergarten students with iPads. And I think some of our other learning throughout the conference as to our generation of kids that we have now, technology is it's just second to none for them. And our kids that are being born now and in the last 5 years, they don't even know what a keyboard is, because everything is touch. And I think what struck me, and what struck me tonight with hearing the group that are using the iPads for visual and auditory and so forth, was you know, we ask our teachers to differentiate their instruction. And I don't know if you haven't been a teacher, it looks pretty simple, where you just go in and you just provide them with what they need. But differentiating instruction is very difficult. But one of the things that the kindergarten teachers from Center Grove said was that differentiation was made so easily with the iPads, because they could put the students at their appropriate levels in most everything that they did. And also, one other thing, and then I'll let the rest of you talk, but I went to a presentation where a 4th grade student presented her day using technology. And, you know, she talked about starting out with science, and they used the technology to dissect a fish.
and they were able to take out all the parts of the fish, and they did this all with technology. And she went through her day and how she used technology throughout the day. But I will have to say that in that particular school system, they trained their teachers first.
And who trained them? Remember, the girl herself was one of the trainers.
The students were doing a lot of the training.
Professional development,
They
yeah.
stayed after school. So, let's talk about technology, the rest of you, what you took away from the technology part of the conference, or Jeff, do you want to?
Well, I attended 5 sessions on out of the sessions. 5 of mine were on technology. The interesting thing, or there are a lot of interesting things. We hear a lot about the iPad, but most of the technology sessions kind of concentrated the iPads down into the lower grade levels, K, 1, 2. Most of the schools that presented, they were more into the Chromebooks, the netbooks, the laptops, because they're just, especially with the flash technology, and the iPads just don't have the power that the students really need. But I think as I walked away from, I think we look at technology, when we talk about it, it's like this black hole. We really don't understand what that means. And I think we've all had computers. The only difference is now we're talking about mobile devices. And I think out of the sessions that the common theme was our whole system has to change. The whole way that we develop the curriculum for our students has to change. The whole way it wasn't about what device we used more than it was how we used them and how the teachers used them. And they all said you can't do it by yourself. They all said you have to have huge implementations team. They all said that the staff has to have them at least a year before the students have them. They all said you don't want technology leading this change, you want an academic advisor leading this. You want to go to your technology department and tell them what you want. But as they were going through, the stuff that they were talking about, you got to worry about deployment, curriculum, professional development, discipline, which makes sense. The data collection, the finance, the district and school leaders have to be involved. It was more about changing the philosophy of how you're instructing your students. The flipped classroom, it was how they were, the session that I attended on those, it was more about, you want to talk about individualized instruction, well, what they were doing is they were taking the concepts. Let's say they're going to teach a simple algebra problem. They would give them a 15 or 20 minute recorded video from the teacher. The teacher did it. That was the student's homework the night before. You're watching this 15 or 20 minute video. And when the students come into class the next day, they're working in stations on those problems, and the teacher is not standing in front of the class lecturing. The teacher is walking around to these groups as they're doing their homework. That way, the teacher can help the students with the problems, because what they're finding is by changing that, letting the teacher record the class and the teacher watch and the student watch that the students no longer get frustrated at home because they can't do their homework. So the teacher now can spot, oh, wait a minute, the student's having a problem on the first problem, so now they're able to catch the student at that time. But the other interesting thing that a lot of the corporations, and there was one so well that I bought a book from, but there's MGS, Dr. Edwards, their system has 6,000 students, and they've been one-to-one like 5 or 6 years now. And the interesting thing that they're, by going all the digital curriculum, it's really not costing that much money. It's really, they've got it down to a science now that if you replace your book fees and do some other creative things with some grants and stuff like that, that the cost really isn't any more to the school system after the initial. So
Do they do a lease arrangement
well, they.
to keep them up to date?
Well, that was the other interesting thing. They're finding that the lease is not the way to go. What they want to do, what they're doing is their plan is 3 years, and their incentive, and they started at the high school, and their incentive is that when the student enters the high school, that device, that laptop, that netbook, or it was actually a Chromebook, is their device. When they leave the high school, when they take it with them. So they maintain it. They use their own staff to maintain it. They talked about having relationships with different vendors that will actually pay the high school staff classrooms to repair their own. They'll, like, just say Dell, for example, they'd pay the school system several $100,000s a year to take care of their own warranties. So they would actually repair them right there.
I see.
And get and collect money in. But there is definitely a lot of information out there from corporations that have done it and are doing it successfully, that it should make it 10 times easier for us. I mean, there's no reason for us to reinvent the wheel. The question is, how do you put the team together and decide on what the approach is that you want to take to get to that? So it was interesting.
Well, I think that, what you said, Dr. Borf, that it's obvious that we need to step up the process, because I think any of us that went to any of the technology sessions left feeling like, oh my gosh, we have got to provide these opportunities for our students, and we can no longer teach necessarily the way we've been teaching. And I know that we work on motivating our students. They say that this is a way to motivate students, and one school district said that their enrollment had increased like 20-some% from their technology, because of their technology initiative.
Well, it can't be just that. What I think I heard is that it's not just everybody gets a laptop or everybody gets an iPad. It has to be integrated. It's a critical part.
It has to be with curriculum.
So it's
and
not just a, oh gosh, you get this tool, and once in a while we'll pull something up on it. That's not what they're doing.
The 6,000, I'm sorry, just one thing and I'll shut up. The 6,000 student district that I was talking about, I was really the most impressed with, said that they've calculated it out. They figure for the students to have their laptops and support their professional development, and they do the flip learning, it costs them $1.25 a day per student.
Well, I'll just reiterate what you were saying earlier. We're behind. We are behind already. And you look at what is happening technologically with the school corporations who were presenters or so. It's something that they've been involved with every from the beginning with the in-class computers to the laptops, now the iPads, the Chromebooks, and everything else. Something that they've been actively involved in with the evolution of that technology for the last 10 or 15 years. We really are we're really behind in that sense. And for us to become up to speed, it's something that we really have got to invest in, not just the things that are in the hand, but again, as you were saying, with the teachers, the parents.
Yes.
The parents, because they have got to be as much involved with this as as the teachers and the students, so.
Well, I think us hearing our Magna School Award speaker, that certainly, I think, opened our eyes as to what kind of kids we are dealing with and what their needs are and their learning styles and, you know.
70% of the jobs that will be available to these kids in 10 years, is that it? Have not yet been.
Don't even exist yet.
Yeah, don't exist.
Right. So we don't know really what we're preparing our students for, but we know that certainly technology will be a part, creativity will be a part, collaboration, they need to know how to collaborate, all those 21st century skills that we have often mentioned will be involved in the jobs that we don't yet know what they are.
So I know I got your email, but I organized my trip out there according to our mission. Our mission says we're going to create college and career-ready kids. And technology is wonderful, but what are you going to do with it? It is a how for some of the other things. So if I summarized in 3 quick points what I heard about focusing on college and career-ready kids, we have to start with STREAM. And they were talking not about STEM, although science, technology, engineering, reading, engineering, art, and math, integrated starting in kindergarten with, and I think we're right on. And part of what I want us to think about is we have already started bits and pieces. What I learned at the conference were some ways to connect the dots that we already have going. We've talked how many times about our kids needing a path, and we heard
backward mapping.
We heard curriculum mapping. We heard lots of different things, but it all ought to be around STREAM because that is the problem solving which allows them to do the stuff that you just mentioned that would be coming soon. So we have to start college and career ready when they're in kindergarten or preschool, thinking about colleges, careers, and that they need further education. The second point, I went to the session on the AP, and I was quite excited to hear that we are going to be one of their stars because we have the grant, the tip-in grant through Notre Dame. But I want to say 2 things. The main key in AP is that it raises the standards for all kids and that we have to pay attention to more than just even early college kids with the rigor. For kids growing up in poverty families, they won't even think about taking that because they don't have the personal discipline. And so our program through early college is a way of preparing those kind of things. How do we focus more kids in that kind of rigor that we saw when we visited early college? I think that's a question for us. One other group that I saw on Career and College Ready, they tracked all of their graduates. 70% of their graduates went to college, 30% of the 70% graduated in 6 years. So they followed all of these kids who went to college, didn't graduate, or did graduate. And what they found was the difference, that those kids who graduated from college had advanced proficiency in the 3rd grade on their state tests. All that to say, college and career ready is not just to the high school, but we have to focus even more intentionally on creating a path starting at kindergarten, focusing and integrating the science technology because that's where we know things are going to come, and we go back to technology. But that gives us the reason for doing the technology that you were all talking about. I have to have a reason as I think about technology for what do we want to do with it, not just put it there. But I want more, but in that kind of organized way.
Well, I went to some of the career and college ready sessions also, and it made me think about our work session this last time because some of the people in that session suggested that we need to have expectations and standards set
at each level
Absolutely.
for our kids as far as college and career readiness. And that's exactly what they were doing. And I believe they used, as one of their standards, they used the ACT and a score. They must have, I think it was fifth graders and then 8th graders and then 12th, I don't know how.
This one group I went to had 7th graders passing algebra, 8th graders passing geometry, and this was all kids, not just the honor kids. And then by the time they get to 9th grade, they have algebra 2. Focusing on math early so they can do the kinds of things they want to do when they get to the high school.
And then Pat picked us up these guides.
The counseling guides,
for
hugely important.
College and career readiness for each elementary,
Each of our 4 or 3 blocks.
intermediate,
Exactly.
and high school. And so I have looked at that, and that's very helpful also. But a lot on college and career readiness. And anybody?
Well, I wanted to say
Dixie?
too, that along with the technology, which is helping this happen, and the STEM stream, the integration of all of that, that I went to one session where they have even moved away from schedules. The curriculum is wrapped around standards. When the students master the standards, they move on. It's go as fast as you want or as slow as you need to master the standards. And if they finish way ahead of time, then they're into the dual credit, getting their college classes, and it's all.
Dixie, you mentioned that. What state was that?
It was in Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky seemed, there were several. They seemed to be-
Eminence.
Eminence.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Dixie,
It was really interesting.
do you remember, or do you have down which of those sessions?
Yes.
You picked up that information? That's an interesting idea.
Well, we all
Well, I
know
liked it.
We've
'cause
talked
that's
about that
sort of-
before, that
we have.
and
What
how
we do.
irritated we get that we get sort of chastised if people don't finish within 4 years or whatever. And we
Well-
know that that's not.
Yeah, the interesting part about this is they've had 0 dropouts
I
the
would
last 4 years.
Oh my
I would
goodness, that.
Now,
does
did they
not
do
surprise
it
me.
starting down in kindergarten?
I'm not sure. I
Well,
would have
for
to
the
go
dual
back and.
credit,
Well,
I
dual
think
credit
it
would
sounds just like high school,
Mhm.
which is where
Where it would-
the sections are so locked in right now.
Yeah.
But the idea of being able to sort of move as fast as you need to is good.
That would be an interesting model.
Yeah.
Well, the one that I went to, which I think was Boone County, Kentucky, or Boone. Anyway, they focused on rigor, relevance, and relationships. And
3 of
We've
our
seen
5
that
R's of the high
before,
school.
right, at our high school.
And so, anyway, and of course, they used the Common Core to focus their standards for college and career readiness. So, anybody else have anything on,
On NSBA or technology?
well, on
Because
technology, on programming, on community involvement, on anything that you went to?
I focused on, and I'm brief, I focused on environment, climate, and school safety. Majority of mine were on that. I did attend some technology, but it was majority on those issues. As well as legal cases that are in front of Supreme Courts right now around the country that we're going to be getting some updates on in June as well as in September. Some of the things that we're going to be facing that we're going to be challenged on. But my big thing was again in regards to climate and school safety. We're going to see more things. A lot of the stuff that we're going to see next year in New Orleans is going to be relative to school safety. Because, the seminars that were in San Diego were all basically online prior to what happened in December in Connecticut. So we'll see that. One of the interesting things, and my final thing is, one of the interesting things I found out in a couple of sessions I was in, when it comes to the issue of school safety, you'll find that that schools that are diverse, such as we are, actually by percentage, have the same as or fewer incidents of violence in them than schools that are primarily one color, one set. It was very interesting point. And I guess to just put it in a nutshell, diversity brings about understanding and the ability or the need to understand. When you're in an environment of one color or just one way, people tend to look for reasons and everything. So our responsibility is going to be, though, in a diverse situation that we are in and a diverse climate that we're in, is how to, again, develop better a means of understanding and those relationships, not just between students, but also between the entire educational community.
Well, I also attended a couple of sessions dealing with brain research, and I think that, they talk about how we should build our schools based around brain research and how important it is for the attention span is about 9 minutes for the brain, and we need to ensure that we are keeping that brain active, and by taking what they call brain breaks. And I think one of the interesting things, there were a lot of sessions also on health and healthy schools and so forth. And I think that one of the things that I learned, that this generation of kids is going to be the most unhealthy kids, unhealthy people that we have, because they are not active. And so we need to ensure that.
Didn't you say 6 hours a week
of
physical activity in order to keep the brain
And so we need to ensure that our kids have recess and have physical education and have lots of movement breaks or whatever. I think it's just, they talked about, serving the kinds of food that they can serve. They had like the A to Z salad bar, or they had a future chefs program. And I just think that we have to be obviously very cognizant of the fact that our kids are in front of some kind of a device many hours during the day. And we have to make sure that our schools are set up. So they talked about even having physical exercise rooms at the high school that are open before and after. Now, I know that many of our kids who are in sporting events, they do training and so forth, but to open it up to all of our students. So anyway, the brain research and the physical exercise and the eating healthy, they all kind of went together. Suzanne?
The common theme of the sessions that I went to, or at least maybe I created it for myself because it organizes it for myself, but seemed to be sort of this entrepreneurialness movement with schools. It's even in the session that we went to with the group that took their graduates and looked at them to see the ones that were successful, that 30%. Well, that's a very entrepreneurial, that's a very business-like approach. So let's go study the data. They were able to drill down to the point where they said the successful students, the successful graduates, scored advanced in second, you said third grade, but I think
between second and third.
Between second and third grade. And so that changed the way just the way they utilize the data, which we do utilize data, but I mean, they were able to drill to specific teachers, to specific classrooms to tell if there needed to be a reorganization of the way they did business in each of those places. The other thing that was very common in amongst a lot of the sessions that I went to in community engagement and marketing was that many schools are looking for different revenue streams, which we have begun to talk about. Everything from students from other countries, that's not a new thing. There are lots of other folks doing that already, to their foundations, to looking for, you talked about the students fixing the computers. There was one group that the foundation had a great relationship with a company that the computers were phased out very quickly, earlier than what we might do. They pulled the hard drives out, shredded the hard drives, bought new hard drives, and then the students put the new hard drives in, and they got these new computers. So just lots and lots of very entrepreneurial thinking kinds of things, even to the way they design their buildings, and that many rooms like this with movable furniture that can be arranged in more conference room kinds of setups so that they can have collaborative meetings. And even to me, the flipped classroom is a very business-like approach. Here's your pre-meeting material. When we get to the classroom, we're going to solve the problem. And so to me, that's sort of the common, again, it's 21st century, you can call it 21st century skills, you can call it whatever you want, but it's really a more business type approach, I think, to how we do business.
Anybody else?
Just
Dixie?
one last thing, that there was a lot of talk about supporting and investing in public education.
Absolutely.
And that privatizing does not necessarily mean it's going to be better. It could become much more chaotic. And that we should, one thing that we went to about branding your board is that you should not be afraid to be positive, to be braggarts for
Right.
your
Our
school
job.
system.
Exactly.
And that we should do a much better job of it.
Linda, it's it's late. Why, we got to plan part of a work session. We have lots of other
Agreed.
implications for what we have learned that we can only touch the surface now. We really need to plan, go into the work session.
Okay, well, that, this was going to lead us into our conversation for our next board meeting. You want to?
Yeah, what I'd like to propose for the board to think about, and Linda and I brainstormed a little bit today, and I think this would be a nice way to work through a few different needs. We need to have an executive session with the board to discuss implications of the new health insurance program, the federal requirements. And we need to discuss some rather sensitive issues related to staffing, benefits, and so on that relate to collective bargaining. And what Linda and I talked about today was at our next regularly scheduled day of a meeting, start early with an executive session. This would be for the purpose of going through this material that's sensitive to collective bargaining. Have an abbreviated board meeting. That board meeting doesn't have to be that long. We almost have a consent agenda and nothing more. And then go into a facilitated board retreat where we're led by a facilitator to discuss issues before you in terms of how do you position yourself for conversations and decisions on the future of the corporation. So, what do you think?
Sounds good.
I think that sounds great.
You're not carving out another day. It's elongating the day a little bit. But
Are you talking about the next May 8th?
May 8th. We'll work out.
We
some
definitely need
particulars.
to have a facilitated work session, and I know that the implications of the health insurance is something critical for us to speak about. So I think that sounds like a good use of time.
Okay.
Good idea.
Then we will plan that for our next meeting. Okay, superintendent and board reports, reflections,
Could I ask,
celebrations.
I kind of missed the old business move away.
Okay,
We moved away.
okay.
I just have one question. With the legislative session ending soon, do we need to be doing anything regarding voucher bills and budget bills? And is there anything we should be?
I think some of that is almost to the point where we can't do much more. We have talked to our legislators about expansion of vouchers. Despite that, I think they're not doing too much to avoid that bill moving forward. Superintendent licensure. Superintendents don't need much of a license anymore. I mean, I think you can get it with an undergraduate degree now.
No,
Maybe
they
not
said you
even
have
that,
to have
I'm
a
not sure.
master's.
No, I don't
You
think-
have to have a master's.
Did they put that
Yes.
back in because
Yeah.
it came
Yes.
out?
Yeah, it
Well,
did
I
say
have,
masters.
and I have something on that
Is
I
it
want to
back in?
say.
So the other, we talked to Senator Paul yesterday. He did come down and talk to us, and we talked to him about the importance of this, of the funding for the Excel Center and supporting the Excel Center in Richmond. But I believe most of the big issues have been pretty much finalized.
They're probably at the point of tacking one thing on another and so
Well,
forth.
I know that's what furiously happens this time of year, which is
What
relatively
I'd like to
annoying,
do,
but-
what I plan to do is bring back to the board a tally, a summary tally of how our legislators voted on all the bills. Because I think it's important to see, for example, in the voucher bill, communication went out, and the communication was pretty specific. You have 10,000 elementary and secondary public school children in Wayne County. Why would you vote to deny resources from them so that you could allocate that for a very slim few when resources are so difficult right now to come by? And despite that, the vote went out in favor of it. So that kind of information, I think, needs to be brought back so that all of you know, the public knows, and we can begin
I had
having conversations about that.
Their thoughts were, slow down, we don't need to do this now, we don't need to do this now, and then the next day, literally, they voted for it.
We need to have Diane Ravitch come.
Yes.
We heard her at the closing session and,
That would be enlightening, wouldn't it?
She also had a piece in the school board journal, too. I wanted to say something on the superintendent's license, because I'm very concerned about this. And I would like to propose, I mean, once the governor signs this into law, that Richmond Community Schools set a policy in 1220 that states that we will hire only superintendents with a teacher superintendent license. I think it's important that we respect and honor the special training needed to be a successful superintendent. It's also important that our students, teachers, administrators, and other employees are led, evaluated, and valued by knowledgeable educational specialists who understand the many challenges of educating children and can use the knowledge to shape educational policy, educational curriculum, and educational excellence. And I think we need to take a lead in this as a school board in positioning and respecting
can we use what
that.
she just said as our policy?
Yes, I think so. Well written.
Well, I've thought about that for a long time. I was upset with that.
That was well said.
I think
we
so
should.
too, Dixie. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those thoughts. Now, we will go to superintendent and board reports, reflections, celebrations.
I have a report, I have an update that I would like to share with the board. This comes from last night. I had an opportunity to spend a little bit of time with Jessica Yu discussing what will be happening next fall with the Chinese students. We're not going to see 25 which would have been a hard thing to pull off. But we will probably see 9 to 11 at the high school. We'll be giving.
That's a good start.
It's a great
I think.
start. That will not, and they won't be just seniors. So there will be a number of sophomores, a number of juniors, but mainly seniors. There will be like, I think 5 seniors, but the rest are broken down into the other 2. But what that does, by spreading them out, it will not jeopardize advanced placement courses as we were concerned. Now that's in phase 1. Accompanying that, and these are just 1-year students, possibly multiple years for the younger students. But what she also would like to do is bring 20 students over for a 2-week visit in August. Last 2 weeks of August, there would be 20 students, and these are the same students who would be looking a year later to spend time in Richmond. And these students would be in addition to a number of students who will be visiting Charles at the very same time, elementary students visiting Charles. There may be some visiting Hibbert as well. So we do have some excitement on the way, and more details will come as I learn the genders, the ages, the names, and so on of these students. There will be teachers coming with them, and perhaps even some parents. So that's a little update. As I know more, I'll be giving more information to you. I would like to tell you that Misty Hollis is working right now to coordinate all of our international student visa support issues, and she will be working much more closely with Jessica as time unfolds to actually place students to make sure that they have the very best experience, not just in school, but outside of school. Now that's for the update. For celebrations, I want to let this board know how proud I was that all of you were there to help receive the Magna Award, which is a school board honor. 260 applicants and only a handful chosen. I think that goes a great deal to the vision of this district.
Honoring early college in one of our snapshots of success?
Well, I talked to Linda, and what I'd like to do is invite all of you to come together at Hibbert and make a presentation to those teachers in front of their students and make an event of it for the kids. But in addition, we've had some conversation about this. The early college program had a visit this year, or this week, and this was by the CEL, people at CEL, and this was an accreditation type visit. We won't know how that goes until the report is submitted back to us, but I can tell you it was a great visit in terms of reviewing our program at the intermediate level, but also seeing what's happening at the high school. And we had some wonderful testimony from high school kids on what they're experiencing. Wasn't necessarily all positive. It was constructive, but most of it was very positive. The other piece that I would like to talk about would be what an honor it was to be at the State House yesterday and receiving recognition for the advanced placement grant that we've taken on. And we've been challenged with other schools around the state to meet some goals in terms of attaining that the increase in advanced placement credits. I think we have a lot on the ball here, and we have teachers to thank for that. We were probably the school with the largest delegation of teachers to be honored yesterday in that whole presentation. So that's my piece for reflections and celebrations.
Could you update us? Do you have any updating on the Charles plans for this summer? Is that going as expected?
Misty, can you give us any further? Misty was there with them yesterday as they met with Jessica Yu. She could give you a better breakdown than probably I can.
We had, we started meeting at 3, and I think about 5:30 is when it wrapped up. So there are still a lot of details being worked out, but there will be, as it appears right now, there will be probably 2 to 3 teachers that will be going in June to their sister school. and meeting staff and parents that will be sending kids here in the fall. And then there will be another group of teachers that will go in July that will be the teaching component to another school. So they're in different sectors of China. The teachers are excited and I would say a little nervous right now. There's still a lot of details to be worked out, but Jessica's working with us and we'll ensure all those details are worked out as we move forward.
Great, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, other celebrations or reflections?
Kindergarten Rocks was awesome. I only got this day for a little while, but and it looked like the preschool rules was also very successful, but it was exciting, I thought, to see all of those schools come together and in one place. The energy was very good.
The turnout was very comparable to last year.
That's what I heard.
We were anticipating a drop in the interest because we're not in disarray this year from all the reshuffling of schools. But I think we actually had 6 more than we
Most
had
of the
last
schools
year.
I talked to said they had 1 or 2 more than they had the year before. So.
Okay, anything else? Everybody looks a little like they're ready to go, and I know people out here sitting on those hard seats, they've been kind of, we've gone over that 9-minute
Yeah. By a while.